Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and professional witch, and today I'm answering the question, how do I connect with my ancestors? Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. I am offering a 12-week Tarot for Transformation live course starting at the end of September. You get to deep dive into the first 12 of the major arcana cards with me as we embody archetypes and learn about how to transform ourselves through the tarot. If you sign up by September 12th, get 25% off with code EARLYBIRD, and you can check out the full details in the link in the show notes. If you're interested in crafting your own tarot cards, you're feeling your creativity come back to you after a summer spent outside, you can go ahead and get my full workshop, including my hour-long recording with my step-by-step method, examples of the tarot cards I've created, journaling questions, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. The link is in the show notes to purchase that now. And I did just update my Patreon benefits, so if you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast during my new moon collective tarot readings, you can join the Everyday Tarot family at the Patreon level, the Everyday Tarot Patreon family at the lovers level. There we go. If you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch level on the Patreon. I recently did the new moon in Virgo, happened on August 21st, 22nd, depending on your time zone. And so I have posted the collective tarot reading replay. The link is in the show notes there. So if you join the Patreon, that at the lovers level, that would be where you would get to see your individual card reading at the end of the collective tarot reading every month. And if you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, you can join us at our next Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event. You can go ahead and join the meetup and join the group, and then you'll get all the notifications for when new events come out. So I just posted my full moon circle events for the rest of 2025 that I'm going to be hosting with my colleague Izzy. We'll be putting them at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma and our full moon dates are September 7th, October 5th, November 2nd, and December 7th, the first Sunday of every month from 5:30 to 7 p.m., like I said, at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma. We'll be having a nice time to pull some tarot cards, do some meditation and ritual and movement, and just to embody the full moon every month. So those are posted on my meetup group as well. There's an Eventbrite sign up there. It is a paid event, and then soon I will be posting my next Let's Talk Tarot virtual tarot card crafting event. I am moving in the next week, and so I just haven't posted an in-person meetup, but I will be having a virtual one soon until I get a little bit more settled, and then actually everyone from around the whole world can join. So look out for that as well. And if you're interested in joining my newsletter list, where I have all this, information in a nice written form about upcoming events, presentations, musings, info and photos of my day-to-day life and the garden, you can join my newsletter list. And if you do so, you'll get a free PDF with my 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of this year. And then finally, if you don't already know, I am a sex and relationships therapist and and coach, seeing clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. So if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull for each episode. All right, so welcome to season 14, where, I'm answering all your frequently asked tarot questions. If you haven't checked out my other seasons yet, you should go and do that. So season 1 was all about tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3, I went through all the major arcana cards and an overview of the 4 suits. Season 4 was all about tarot and pop culture. Season 5, 13 common tarot spreads. Season 6, 7, 8, and 9, I went through all of the suit of wands, pentacles, swords, and cups. Season 10 was about tarot and witchcraft. Season 11, tarot and plant allies. Season 12, tarot and animals. And season 13 that I just wrapped up was all about divination in the Harry Potter series. So like I said, in this season, I am answering all your frequently asked tarot questions. I do run, this local meetup group where I'm meeting with folks that are into tarot, but we pretty much always have new people that attend the meetup that have, been doing tarot for only a little bit of time or want to learn more. So I love getting to, have a whole podcast season answering questions. So the question we're answering today is, how do I connect with my ancestors? So there's a great book called Ancestral Medicine by Daniel Four. There is a good subtitle, so I'm gonna Rituals for Personal and Family Healing. We actually had a Dirty Hoe Coven meeting where someone presented about ancestral medicine. Tori from from Native Yardening, so native.yards on Instagram. They came on for one of our weekly meetings in the coven and talked about connecting with ancestors and talked about this really good book. So I have the book. Like I said, I am moving right now, so my book is packed away somewhere. So it's a great reference if you like this episode and you want to do more. There's over 20 exercises and rituals to help you initiate contact with your ancestors, find ancestral guides. It talks about safety and lineage repair work, and it's a whole book about this, and intergenerational legacies of trauma or things like that. So it's a wonderful book. So again, if you want to know more, if you want to have a whole book in the palm of your hand that talks all about connecting with your ancestors, that is a great recommendation. So I do have the link for that in the show notes. But we'll just sort of talk as an overview today about what is this, right? How do I connect with my ancestors? What does that even look like? So yeah, I'm gonna pull, so this is from ancestralvoices.co.uk, also answering the question of how can I connect with my ancestors, and they start to say, the reality is that you already are, but you are not conscious of it, so good job, you're already doing it. It says it's easy to get caught up in the belief of separation due to death, not knowing a family member, or being removed from an ancestral home and culture. However, the most important thing to remember is that your ancestors are you. Right? They are part of your genetic makeup. All the memories, experiences, and characteristics exist within your DNA. And again, you might have a kid that doesn't, or they, look like you, but they also have similar mannerisms to a grandparent they've never even met. I think a lot of us have experienced that. So it's really imperative to note that connection with ancestors, transcends time and space. And I think that that's also really important when folks have, perhaps family trauma, not great childhoods. Again, I'm a therapist, so I'm well aware that is happening, that not everyone has great connections with their immediate family or even with extended family. But I really think that with connecting with your ancestors, actually in the ancestral medicine book, they talk about that the first way to do it is actually connecting with like your most distant ancestors, which would be like early Homo sapiens. I studied anthropology in my undergraduate, so love to talk about our ancient human ancestors, that were not doing agriculture. They were not going to grocery stores. They were not living in stationary homes on stolen land. They were they were nomadic. They moved around during different cycles or seasons in order to best work with the land and the plants and animals and have this a bit more harmonious system. It also meant that we as humans we're not necessarily at the top of the food chain. We sort of have worked our way up there, but again, if you spend a lot of time in nature, I grew up going to a lot of national parks, which are a version of nature, but you get the sense of we are like a small part. There are so many animals and different things, and so again, let's get back to the ancestors part, but I really like the idea of connecting with actually our most ancient ancestors and kind of the ways that they were living their life, because I would say in my sort of witchy paganist practice, my daily practices, it is very much about connecting with seasons, connecting with the plants and animals that are around me, I currently live in a fairly urban area. I live on a quarter acre, so a decent backyard, but I live 2 blocks from the train station. It shakes my house. I live very close to the highway that you can hear in any video that I post from my backyard. And yet, there are all these creatures and critters and plants and allies that come and stay in my area. So there's also a way of living that can, in my opinion, honor our most ancient ancestors who were a lot more connected to the plants and animals around them. So, that is one way to do so. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna just think about my grandparents or my parents or things like that. That can also be a way. So let's talk about some other ways. So if you were to connect with your more immediate ancestors, you could do so by sort of setting up a sacred space in your home, like an altar. It could be like a place of peace or meditation or focused thought. And it just kind of is this ritual setting to connect with different aspects of ourselves or to honor kind of maybe the people that came before us that did create part of who we are today. And there's no right or wrong way to set up an altar. Some people do it very formally. I'm a bit of a ADHD kitchen nature witch, so mine's always a bit chaotic, I would say, or just a little messy, but you can use a table or a cover with a cloth and add items that are related to your intention. So again, it could be family photographs or an item that reminds you of your ancestors. You can light a candle or add a glass of water to the altar, or stones or crystals or flowers, and your intuition will help guide you on what to add. Again, if you're trying to honor a specific ancestor, photos are helpful, and you can also, maybe if you want to communicate with a loved one, that is a place to do so. And again, you don't necessarily need to connect with every ancestor you've had, especially if they were harmful to you or other people in your lives. Just connect with the folks that are worthy and that you want to at first, It doesn't mean that we're going to just discard the other people. They're still, a part of us and our family system or dynamics, but we can send them love and cleansing and healing energies or other energies if we don't want that. But, we can still kind of honor them or honor ourselves in a way of saying I wish you had been a more healed person and that we had been better able to have a relationship, or that you weren't so harmful to the people I love. That can be another way to do that. There's also different, again, I guess ways that I have like an altar. I don't have photos so much. I have a couple, I guess. But I have more like tokens or items from them. I have like some books. Again, I talked about in last episode, but I have a lot of books. I always have. I always will. I love them as a kid and always wanted to just like have them. I like being around them. So I have books from my grandfathers on both sides that they used in their day-to-day life, or ones that were really important to them. And different, like I have my granddad's like nameplate, and what else I have, my other grandfather's, he was a docent at the Salvador Dali Museum, so I have his old like docent name badge, and I have some of the books that he used to study for being a docent at that museum. So those are part of the ways that I connect with them, or things that they gave me, or things that remind me of them. Another way that I kind of connect with another one of my ancestors is my grandma, my mom on my mom's side had all these, I guess they're like iron, like kitchen gadgets that were all vintage. So I have one now that is like a cherry pitter, so it's like a very specific machine, and she had a bunch of these. And as a kid, I just remember like she put them, they would like clamp to a table. Again, they were used for people that were making and doing a lot of their own food preparation, and she had a ton of them, like at least 20, I would say. My mom took some like over time, or they kind of got spread out within the family, and I have one now. But I have a cherry pitter because I like to do things with cherries. I made cherry ice cream this summer, and so it's like a one-use device, but it's very cool. It's just like a hand crank, and it's like made of iron, I think. But yeah, you would like clamp them to the table, and they all had hand cranks. And so as a kid, my grandma had them all around like a coffee table, and we would just like go around the table like cranking all the different things, and like it was very fun as a kid. Those were the fun toys we were playing with. So like that's like one way where, right, it's not necessarily like a photo, it's like a thing that I actually use, but it's very nice. Like I like to keep it and use it, you know, occasionally, to think of her, because it's also just like very much her style, and she had 7 kids and did a lot of like food and meals and things like that. So that's one of the ways that I think about. What else? Yeah, you can think about, if you were to create an altar, like what are your intentions? Like, do you want to bring values from those people into your daily life? Do you want to like have guidance from them? Do you want to pay homage to them? And again, it doesn't have to be like a spiritual thing. If you don't want it to be, it can just be like this moment of gratitude. And again, you can pick a special spot for your altar. So like I have one that's like the one for my grandparents that's like fairly small, actually, is like set at the bottom of my like earring tree, because I wear a lot of earrings, and so I'm going there every day and like picking different ones. So I have all their little kind of goodies in this tray that I see daily, right? There's also ones where sometimes I have a more formal altar that I change out for different like holidays or sabbats. And so like that is one I've had at like the front of my house, where I know that other people are gonna like see it. Guests that come to my house are gonna see it, that I do sort of like switch over. But like for my ancestor altar, it's pretty much the same all the time. I don't necessarily bring them things. It's more of like this daily practice. Again, you can have objects or photos, crystals, dolls, symbols, belongings, right? Even like jewelry from ancestors, or like family heirlooms, things passed down from generation to generation, all those different kind of things. And you can also start a ritual, right? Maybe this isn't a thing you grew up with, but you can offer food or display flowers or say a prayer or a blessing and light a candle or things like that. You can talk to them, bring challenges, things like that. In a lot of like pagan or witchy rituals, you offer food, but also like often eat food, because there is this like energetic aspect of like doing witchcraft or practice that like takes energy. And so, right, like offering food or even like eating food, again, like maybe that your family used to make, or right, a recipe that's been passed down, can also be a way to like connect with them, right? Or maybe it's like wearing your grandmother's rings, right? Or like having things in your daily life that remind you of them. Other ways that are, right, kind of different from that, like you could visit graves of your ancestors. If they're buried in a cemetery, you can go regularly. Again, in kind of the pagan year, there's Samhain on like Halloween or around Day of the Dead, where you go and kind of like visit or commune with your ancestors in a more formal way, right? It is said that like this is when the veil is thin, so right where it makes it easier to connect with those that have passed on. This is where, right, our spooky Halloween traditions come from. And again, like the Day of the Dead, November 2nd ceremony, like the Mexican tradition, is also this like going and honoring, decorating the grave sites or offerings of those that have passed, and maybe, right, putting objects or photos or, right, their favorite candies or flowers or right, gifts of any kind, like on this, right, on the grave site itself, and like leaving them there, as well as like a ritual practice. Right, you could host a family gathering to honor your loved ones, right? It could be like a thing you do with your immediate family or other people in your chosen family, where you can do this and reminisce about them. Or it could be like an annual gathering, right, to kind of like remember and honor like just family tradition at all, right? Like ones that I think people don't even think about are like going through old photo albums, right, watching home videos or things like that, like drinking a warm cup of tea and like lighting scented candles and going through photo albums. That can be its own like practice, right? You're reminiscing about the days that they were here, right? You can talk to them or laugh or, right, kind of like connect with what was going on, who they were maybe when you were younger, right? You could craft, right? I know like I have family, like my grandmother was a seamstress and like sewed my Halloween costumes and like other things when I was a kid. And so I have like some, like one of my cousins like does a lot of like sewing or quilting, like as a part of like honoring of this like tradition that was passed down in our family. Right, again, I think like cooking is like a common one, right? Using recipes from family. You can burn incense, or maybe it's like crochet or playing the piano or different things like that, that you are sort of like thinking of them or doing it as a dedication to them. You can create an ancestor tea blend, and I'm reading this from blog.greenwitchliving.com, ways to connect with your ancestors. So you can choose herbs or roots or botanicals to create your own tea blend that you think your ancestor would enjoy, or maybe even like one that maybe you associate with like their house or going there, right? Like, did you have certain kinds of cookies when you went there, or a certain like lotion that your grandmother wore that you remember and smell, things like that, right? Or did they have a certain flavor of tea they loved, or, right, were they really into roses or like chocolate, or again, like just different things, and just aromas and flavors, right, have a way of bringing memories to the surface. So that can be a way to connect as well, right? You could also write a letter to your ancestors, or to one in particular, right? That can like open the door to communication, and you could even do like automatic writing if you feel connected to them and they're sort of seeing like what comes through. You can pay attention to like how what you're thinking and then what you end up writing comes through. And that can be a way to communicate with ancestors in that way. You can do research on your family lineage, right? This is often the like prescriptive, not necessarily spiritual way to do it, although I think it can be, but it's to like do a DNA test, right? Or like research your family's ancestry. Do you have, right, like genealogy things, or does someone in your family keep those records of the family lineage? But right, there might be names or different people that you might not even have known existed, or even learning about, right, your more maybe ancient ancestors and like the land, the people, the culture that they came from, which I think a lot of us in the US are disconnected from. Like maybe our ancestors came here a while ago, or had to, right, leave their homeland for various reasons, and often had to leave a lot of their cultural traditions behind for fear of retaliation, or for fear of being found out, or just they felt the need to assimilate. And so a lot of those things can get lost too. Another way would be to dream with your ancestors. So like, right, dreaming, being in our subconscious, like sometimes our ancestors will visit us in dreams, right? That's a way they can communicate to us with our minds are less distracted and maybe more receptive. You can make a dream pillow using like herbs like lavender or chamomile, or crystals like amethyst or selenite, and you can add something to connect with your energy with theirs, so you could put into that and put it like underneath your pillow. You can put photos or things that they touched regularly, right? Maybe you have like, I don't know, like a spoon they used all the time, or like jewelry or movie stub tickets or keys, or I definitely have some keys, flowers or oils or hair clips, or right, like anything like that, as a way to like, right, connect, to sort of bring them into like the tangible world. You could dedicate a crystal to your ancestors, like maybe one crystal you choose to only connect with your ancestors, and you can kind of like program it to link with, like during a ritual or meditation, or kind of like every time that you pick it up or see it or hold it, that you are calling upon your loved ones and focusing on their presence. You can do that, like they suggest selenite or black obsidian, sodalite, lapis lazuli as helpful with connecting with the other side or opening the door to communication. You can also just kind of like visualize, right? You can think about them. Visualization is a large part of magic. And so you can imagine them sitting next to you, right? Talking to you, drinking a cup of coffee or tea, or playing with a deck of cards. Like you can do that every night before going to bed, or just the repetition of practice can like create different energy shifts, and right, just might allow them to like come through and speak to you in that way. All right, well, that was a lot of different examples. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I want to say. But yeah, I think it can run the gamut of like being a daily thing or a thing you do annually. It can be very specific, or it could be to kind of all your ancestors. Like I said, it can be to kind of your like our most ancient human ancestors of, you know, millions of years ago at this point, who first Homo sapiens, right, that started with tools, with communication with people and finding different ways, or pre-writing things down, right? Agriculture, things like that, which I find very fun to think about. All right, so let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. I'm trying to think what deck to pull from. I am going to pull from the Lila and Olive Ophidia Rosa tarot deck. That one is just kind of calling to me right now. Let's do a quick shuffle. pulled the Seven of Cups, and this deck is very brief with its descriptions. It says to have it all is to give, give, give. Well, I like that for the ancestral aspect of it, right? That like in order to, right, maybe really connect, we have to sometimes give something of ourselves. And again, whether that's like our time, right, visualizing our energy by baking something, our, again, like our focus by meditation to connect with ancestors, or yeah, it can feel like this richer life to have, even if you don't feel like in your day-to-day life you're very connected to like your immediate family or the family you grew up with. Or I know I have a lot of extended family that lives like on the other side of the US from me, and I see them pretty rarely. I saw them in like a decent amount of them when my brother got married in like 2017. Yeah, about then. So almost, right, I don't know, 8 years. And once we moved to the West Coast, I grew up in Georgia until I was 8. Once we moved over here, we had a lot less of our sort of like immediate family close by, and so we got closer to more extended family, so like further away, right, in the kind of lineage, but because they were physically the physical proximity was a lot more, or maybe even like similar values, like I consider them, right, almost closer family for me. So very interesting there. All right. Well, if you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, you can click on the link in the show notes to indicate your interest, to get more info on that. We'll be working together for 12 weeks of calls and journaling to discover what happens when we want to transform our lives through the tarot. Links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. And you can email me, e@CamilleASaunders.com, with your thoughts, questions, and more. I would love to hear from anyone about their favorite way to connect with your ancestors, or maybe one that you hadn't considered, but after listening to today's episode are going to try out. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.